If your baby's waking early from naps, there is a really simple trick that you can do to try to help fix that. In this video, we're going to talk about what that trick is, as well as the caveats that go along with that trick. I'll also go into sleep transitions and exactly what those are, what they mean, and we will define what is waking early exactly. And we'll discuss what to do if you have a chronic short napper. And then finally, other ideas in case this short nap fix does not work for you. But first, hello, my name is Valerie. I blog at babywisemom.com and I have been blogging there since the year 2007. I have 4 children who currently range in age from 11 to 18 years old. And I love helping parents love parenthood and love being a parent. When I had my first baby, I would rush in at the first peep he made during any nap, which can be a problem, especially with newborns because they're so noisy when they sleep. But at all ages, anytime he made a peep, I hurried in there. I wanted to make sure he knew, like as soon as he made a squawk, I was there for him. Then fast forward to me having my second baby. When you have more than one baby, it just isn't possible to always rush in as soon as your baby makes a peep. When I had my second baby, my oldest baby at the time was 22 months old. And anyone with a toddler, a 22-month-old knows that 22-month-olds take a lot of work. You can't just leave a 22-month-old unattended or expect them to just completely entertain themselves. So there would be times my second child would wake up earlier from a nap than I expected her to, and earlier than she typically did, and I would not be able to rush right in at her first peep. One example I vividly remember is when my oldest was taking a bath. So my second baby always was really consistent and solid for that first nap of the day. And so I got her up, I fed her, put her down for her first nap, and then my oldest did a bath. And then she woke up early. And obviously, you can't leave a toddler in a tub unattended. And so I heard her crying, I had the baby monitor. I hurried, got him out of the tub as quickly as I could, got him dried off, got him dressed, and then rushed into her room, and she was asleep. So at the time, video monitors didn't exist, and so I just had the audio monitor. But I realized in that moment, if you wait, then the baby might just go back to sleep. So this tip was born. If you wait 10 minutes, there is an excellent chance that your baby will just go back to sleep. So when your baby wakes up early, a really good idea is to wait 10 minutes before you rush in and see if your baby just falls back asleep. A lot of times babies are just really noisy during a sleep transition and don't actually need to get up. They're just noisy, even sometimes crying while they transition. If you give your baby a chance to resettle and go back to sleep, there's an excellent chance that will happen. So of course there are caveats. So what are the caveats in association with this recommendation? If your baby wakes up early and you can just tell that there is something wrong, you definitely want to go in right away to help your baby out. And you know what? Sometimes you might get it wrong. You might think something's definitely wrong and you rush in there and you can't see anything definitely wrong. And that's okay, because that's part of the learning process of being a parent. Like, you don't have to be perfect at all times. You don't have to judge every situation perfectly, and that's okay. Another caveat is if your baby is having a growth spurt. If you know your baby's in a growth spurt, you do not want to wait 10 minutes before you go get your baby up. If your baby wakes up early, your baby's in this growth spurt, you know that your baby's going to wake up early when they're in a growth spurt. So you get them up, you feed them, proceed with your routine. If you need more information on growth spurts, be sure to see my video or my blog post all about growth spurts. Another caveat is if your baby is sick. So if your baby has a cold or other kind of sickness, ear infection, whatever, or maybe teething, so sickness or pain, then you do want to go in and help your baby out. So you don't need to leave a sick baby. Now, sometimes if it's a cold, something like a cold, more mild, then you might give your baby a chance to resettle before going in, as long as you can tell, like, it's okay. Like, it's not a really bad cry, like, and you feel like, I think like it can be okay. Always trust your gut in this situation. but you feel like, I think maybe I wait. Because if your baby is sick, the best thing for your baby is sleep. And so if your baby would resettle, even when they're sick, then that's a good thing. So if you feel like maybe if I wait a few minutes, my baby will go back to sleep. But sometimes when they're sick, they wake up early and you hold them for the rest of the nap. And sometimes it helps if they need to be upright for the rest of the nap, or you maybe put them in a swing for the rest of that nap so that they're more upright, or you put them in a front carrier and baby wear for that nap. So, sometimes you might see if they'll just go back to sleep, and sometimes you might do something else to help them get the sleep they need to get better. I mentioned the phrase sleep transitions earlier, and so you may be wondering, what is a sleep transition? Every 45 minutes, your baby will move from one type of sleep into a different type of sleep. So from active sleep into restful sleep. So from active sleep into inactive sleep. So as your baby moves from one type of sleep into another type of sleep, there is a transition. And at that transition, your baby is in a very light stage of sleep. This is a point when your baby can be very easily woken up. But also, during this transition, newborns are often extremely noisy. So you may find that your baby's actually still asleep and just transitioning and not fully awake. And if that is the case and you rush in there to get your baby, then you do wake them up. So they may just be in this light stage, moving from one sleep cycle to another. You rush in and suddenly they're awake instead of just slipping into the next stage of sleep. If we're going to talk about what to do when your baby wakes early for a nap, it's probably helpful to define what early means. Typically for a nap, a baby will sleep 1.5 to 2.5 hours long. So if your baby wakes up at that 45-ish minute mark, then that is early. The exception to that would be that the last nap of the day is sometimes the shortest nap of the day and often shorter than a 1.5 hour nap. So it is not uncommon for a last nap of the day to be only 30 to 60 minutes long. So if that's the pattern your baby has, then that doesn't need to be considered a short nap. That's just a normal cat nap at the end of the day. So what about if your baby chronically takes short naps? Like every single nap, basically your baby is waking up around 45 minutes into the nap. This can happen because of a growth spurt or because of general hunger. So if your baby is constantly waking up, the first thing you want to make sure is not happening is hunger, whether that is just from general hunger or from a growth spurt. So make sure you rule that out very first thing. And I do have information on how to do that in my growth spurt video or blog post. Another common reason for chronic short naps is if your baby is not able to independently fall asleep. If your baby relies on a pacifier or relies on you rocking your baby to sleep, or relies on some other external force, then when that transition happens, it can be really hard for your baby to fall into that next sleep cycle and can really wake up, especially if there's something that rouses your baby. And that can be light, that can be noise, that can even be smells. So if there's just something going on that rouses your baby into alertness instead of allowing your baby to slip into that next sleep cycle, your baby may wake because they need that help. Like the pacifier may have fallen out and they're not old enough to pick it up and put it back in. Or if you rock your baby to sleep, they're obviously not being rocked if they're in the crib at that sleep transition. If your baby can't sleep independently and taking chronically short naps, you will want to consider doing some sleep training. Another common reason for waking up after a short nap is a sleep regression, and that just happens. And there are some things you can do to help depending on the age of your baby. If you have a baby in a sleep regression, I do have lots of posts on that. I have a general post that just goes over all sleep regressions, but I also dive into the details of each age of sleep regression. Sometimes a baby takes chronically short naps just because it's a habit, and this is most likely to happen if you rush in at that first peep when your baby's transitioning. Then you train your baby to take that 45-minute nap instead of allowing your baby to learn to take that longer, solid nap. Why does that matter? Because your baby always starts sleep in an REM sleep pattern. If your baby never takes that extra sleep cycle, then your baby's always getting REM sleep, and the body does different things during different types of sleep. So if your baby is only ever taking REM sleep, then your baby's not getting that other type of sleep to help your baby get the full benefit of a nap. You do want to try to make sure your baby gets the full, at least 1.5 hour long nap. Another big cause for short naps is just simply that your wake time length, also known as wake windows, is off. Typically, that'll be that it is too long. Your baby's wake window is longer than it should be, and so your baby's overstimulated and doesn't sleep well. It can happen that your wake window is too short. The most common thing, especially with a younger baby, for sure 6 months and younger, is going to be that it's too long. But even any baby, and it's important to note that toddlers have wake windows also. And some are more flexible than others, but some, like if they get up at 7 a.m., they need to be down for nap between 1 and 1:10 p.m. if they're down to 1 nap a day. So a wake window is an important concept for babies and toddlers. And it may even be important for a preschooler. If you are not sure about what your wake window should be, I have a lot of help about that topic if you look at my blog for wake time length help, and I also have videos about wake time length. The final common reason for chronic short naps is that your baby's working on a new skill. So if your baby's learning to sit up independently, roll over independently, stand up independently, even speaking new words or gaining that fine motor control can lead your baby to kind of waking up and then thinking, oh, I remember how much fun it is to try to roll over. I'm going to try to do that right now. And then they do that and do that and do that. And maybe they do roll over, and then it's upsetting to them because they can't roll back yet. Or they've just really woken themselves up and so they can't continue to sleep. There are things you can do to help that. And I do have a blog post and a video all about how to help your baby sleep well if new skills are disrupting sleep. If your baby is waking early and the 10-minute trick does not help, there are a couple of things you can try to help it out. One is you can go in and resettle your baby. That can involve just redoing your sleep routine really quickly to help your child understand like it is still time for sleep. Another thing is to sleep train your baby if your baby does not know how to sleep independently. And then of course go through all of the things discussed earlier in the video about how to handle chronic short naps. And short naps can be quite the issue, so I do have a full blog post and helpful video to help you work through all the reasons for short naps. Well, that wraps up my 10-minute trick for helping your baby to take full naps. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments and I will definitely answer you. Thanks for watching and have a great day.